It's time for Gameweek 27 Championship predictions. I'm Ollie K and I'm here with my co-host. As always, it's Mark Ryman to dig out some absolutely shoddy Championship predictions. How we feeling, Mark?
Yeah, back on it after a week. But I tell you what, it feels longer, doesn't it? We were just saying this before we started. Maybe it's because we've had like about 8,000 managerial changes in the last few weeks, but it just feels like forever since we last looked at the Championship. Yeah, a few things have changed. Let's see if it affects any of these scores over the weekend.
Yeah, well, I'm betting big on it actually changing some of the results, but at the same time, you got the top four that are pushing quite aggressively, becoming a sort of mini league of their own. But let's start with two of these teams in the top four duking it out. Turf Moor, Burnley versus Sunderland.
Yeah, I can't work out whether this is going to be a classic or an absolute dross boring.
It could be attritional.
Attritional 1-1 draw. By the way, I've gone for the attritional 1-1 draw, but it still could be very entertaining in that 1-1 draw. I think it'd be very tight. I don't know how much you read into the cup game. I mean, Sunderland got beat by Stoke City in front of 5-6 people at Stadium of Light, apparently, according to those videos doing the rounds. And Burnley swept aside Reading. But again, in the league, they're both coming off two 1-0 wins. It's going to be tight, isn't it? The way they've been both going, they've not been winning games by huge margins, either team really. I have been impressed with Sunderland's longevity. I have to say that. I think Burnley are playing the way we all expected them to at the start of the season. They sort of flattered to deceive at the very beginning, scoring tons of goals against, well, mainly Luton and Cardiff, to be honest. And then they sort of reverted back to the Scott Parker way. Yeah, it's going to be a 1-1. Let's hope it's an entertaining one.
I've gone 2-1 Burnley here. And just a word on Sunderland's midweek FA Cup game. One of the funniest things was Enzo Lefebvre walking around applauding the 5,000 fans that were there. Applauding the seats. He must have thought, what am I in for here?
Record signing.
He's alone with an option, is an obligation to buy if they go up.
Yeah.
And he's very highly regarded. I reckon he could get chucked straight in here. But Burnley's defence is mean. They are the only team to have not conceded double digits this season so far. 9 goals conceded. Even in our wildest dreams, we didn't think Scott Parker would have that sort of impact.
No, I mean, that is very impressive, particularly considering the amount of goals conceded in the Premier League. Same could be said of Sheffield United. I mean, Lefebvre's obviously going to be an incredible player in the Championship, you'd think, in terms of his pedigree coming from Roma. I mean, I wasn't aware that the clause was if they went up, hence why I said it was risky. So if it is an obligation, if they go up, then that's not so bad. Otherwise, you'd say that they're really putting their eggs in that basket. But yeah, we'll see. I agree with you. He probably will get thrown straight in, at least at some point in this game. It's such a big game. It's so important. I think you've got to, haven't you?
Yeah, I have no idea where he actually fits in because they got Bellingham, they got Neil there as well. And they tend to play a 4-3-3.
Yeah.
I don't see where he fits in, but they might just try and fit him in. Maybe they drop Neil, maybe he comes off the bench, but you have a player of that pedigree, you play him. But regardless, I think Sunderland will get a goal against Burnley, but I think Burnley could probably nick it, especially at home.
Yeah, could easily happen. I think both of us agree. At least it's going to be a tight one and not going to be loads of goals. But yeah, hopefully we're wrong.
All right, and now on to the other end of the spectrum. Well, Swansea are doing all right, aren't they? It's Cardiff versus Swansea, and this one's a derby. It's a Welsh derby.
It is a derby, yeah, South Wales as well, and one in which Swansea generally do pretty well in.
Mm.
I think they've won the vast majority of these. You say Swansea are doing well, and they are by and large. However, their last couple of games not so good. They got hammered, of course, by Pompey. They drew against West Brom. They got beat by Southampton in the cup. I mean, again, don't know how much you read into that one, but Cardiff have really started to tighten things up from a team that sort of dipped again under Omar Rizzo. They I wouldn't say they've turned it around, but they've certainly stopped conceding goals. They were quite close to beating Watford the other night, and if it wasn't for a bio equaliser, and I think quite towards the end of that game. But I think that, Swansea's dominance in the derby, I'm going to go for a 2-1 Swansea for this one, based on that.
Yeah, so for me, I've gone for a 1-1 draw because I think form kind of goes out the window. I've taken into account Cardiff's little resurgence coming into this, so 1-1, drawn 3. Also, I'm taking into account Swansea's kind of toothlessness. But then I'm upping it from Cardiff's side. So I've just gone safe here. I've gone for a draw. But interestingly, yes, Swansea do have the better on this. So last 15 games, Swansea have won 9, Cardiff 3, and then drawn 2. So it's certainly skewed to Swansea. But Swansea, they play beautiful football, but they can't really score, can they?
No, you're right. They've struggled for goals all seasons. Cardiff certainly not prolific either, as you say. You certainly don't want to lose a derby at home. Look at Blackburn and the scenes after that game with the flag and everything else. And I mean, God, can you imagine? Disgraceful stuff. So you'd hope as a Cardiff fan that you just don't lose that game at least.
Yeah, they got to turn up at home as well. Right, Millwall versus Hull City. I'll kick this one off. I've gone 1-0 for Hull.
Okay.
I think Hull having a little resurgence under Ruben Selles. By a little resurgence, I mean they're not losing every week. Like last 5, they've won twice, drawn once, and they've been pretty good value for their wins. Like winning at Ewood Park, they lost only 1-0 to Middlesbrough, and a very tasty draw against Leeds, where they went ahead, then came back from 3-1 down to level it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said one draw. I was going to say, but what one hell of a draw as well, as you said. I mean, that's got to do wonders for the confidence, hasn't it, to do that against the Leeds side who, don't generally throw away leads, particularly 2-goal ones. In this case, is this the beginning of the bottle? Let's see. But yeah, I think it'll be tight as well. I think Millwall have struggled though, haven't they? They've not been able to get a win for at least the last 4 or 5 games. Neither team are convincing me enough, so therefore I've gone for a 1-1. But yeah, Selles is certainly helping to turn things around a little bit at Hull. Made a few quite quick signings as well. I've just seen they've signed Joe Gerhardt from Leeds as well. So whether he can have an impact, having not had much game time recently, they need someone who can put the ball in the back of the net. So maybe that's him.
It is certainly an interesting signing. I don't think Joe Gerhardt is the answer by any stretch. He's not exactly prolific. He's a very tidy footballer, but I think he scored 9 goals in his career in 90 games, and I certainly don't think he's going to be the one to add firepower to Hull's front line. I think João Pedro is probably the main man there. But I do think Ruben Selles will have enough to get Hull moving the right way. That's all I'm thinking about that. Whereas Millwall, I don't know, their form is quite inconsistent. Not many wins. A far cry from when they stormed into the playoff picture with those 4 straight 1-0 wins. But I guess we'll see with Millwall. Do you think Millwall could actually get sucked into the relegation battle, considering they're on 30 points.
It would be interesting if I was suddenly proved right from looking so wrong at one point, because I did put Millwall in the bottom three. I think
they're going to lose Essay as well.
They are going to, by the looks of things, yeah. And so, I mean, there's a chance there. I think that defensively, and the quality of some of their forwards, in Cooper and I think they'll be okay. I do. But it's going to, it's touch and go. And obviously with Harris walking out the door, who had them playing in a specific way, that's very hard to turn around. That's very difficult to suddenly make your team more attacking if goals is what you're lacking in that area. So that's going to be the tough thing. If they're not keeping enough goals out the other end, are they an attacking force enough to get the points on the board? I think they'll be okay, but I think it'll be tight.
Yeah, they got to make sure they come out the January window having made some signings, because if they lose Essay, he is such an important attacking outlet for them. And the January window, it is very easy to sell assets and just then, to actually quote Gary Sweet, you cut too deep and then you just completely lose the backbone of your team and all impetus going forward. It'll be an interesting one, because right now they are only 5 points ahead of Luton Town, who are very much in a relegation battle.
Certainly. Yeah. It's, as always, it's going to come down to the wire in the Championship, as it always does down there, as it often does for the playoffs as well. So, I mean, they're certainly in trouble. Yeah, we'll see how, as you said, how they come out of January.
Yeah, and another team in the relegation battle, it's formerly Wayne Rooney's Plymouth Argyle versus Queen's Park Rangers.
Yeah, I'm going with a trusted, we know he's a good manager versus a bit of an unknown. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to QPR for this one. I think that, Plymouth have been a bit better. Actually, I mean, obviously their last result against Brentford was incredible, and the scenes in the away end were also incredible. Whether they need another round in the FA Cup, I suppose, is debatable in their current situation in the league.
I'm not complaining.
No, exactly. It was what a result of completely. I think no one could have possibly predicted that. I often think teams like Brentford are the hardest teams to play, even more so than
especially
the biggest
at
teams.
home.
Yes, at home, because they won't. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but they often don't make those 11 changes that you'll see from the top sides. Thomas Frank is a wily manager. He knows the Championship very well as well. I just didn't see it coming. So incredible result for them. I think coming up against the QPR sides who are banging form, other than, of course, their 6-2 drubbing away at Leicester. I still think I'm going to bank on what I know, I think, in terms of managerial, and just go for 2-1, purely based on that, really.
So I'm going for a Plymouth home win. QPR don't tend to travel too well. The reason for them shooting up the table is their home form. They've had like a run of straight wins at home. And as you see, they don't travel well. Leicester absolutely battered them, and Leicester are really struggling at the bottom of the league right now. Well, not the bottom. There's always Southampton there, but they're struggling right now, Leicester, and QPR don't travel well. Morgan Whittaker, high in confidence.
But is he going?
Is he going? Well, until he goes, he's not gone. There's always been talk about, is he going to go to Brentford? Not Brentford, Burnley. Got Brentford on the mind now. There was talk of him going to Lazio last summer as well. Burnley have put an offer in. Hull put in an offer for him, apparently.
That's optimistic.
Talk about a sideways step. They would have made him the highest earner there, without doubt. But he could go. But considering he stayed last season at Plymouth, I think he might want to try and make sure that they're safe, especially that they're not cut adrift. He's still young. There's still time for his career, but I'm going 1-0 Plymouth here. I think they could do it. They play some decent football. They got players coming back from injury. Whittaker is the Whittaker is the talisman for them.
God, yeah, he really is. I don't know this, obviously, and my feeling was that he stayed in the summer because Wayne Rooney, as for him particularly in that position, would have been someone that could have helped him with his game. Whether he'll feel the same about the new manager may change things. Who knows?
The new manager sounds pretty damn inspirational.
From the bit that we all seen online, yeah, he certainly does. And he's not down the pub doing karaoke already, so he's already an improvement on the last one, right? So
yeah. Imagine going from Wayne Rooney, who can barely string a coherent sentence together, to that guy who's going full Braveheart.
Yeah. Exactly. Their just brains exploded. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it was fantastic. What a clip. And let's see if it translates on the pitch. But yeah, it's going to be a tight one, I think.
Yeah, it definitely will be a tight one. Right, on to one that I think is going to be a tight one. It's Frank Lampard's Coventry City versus Bristol City. I've gone for a Desmond here, just a 2-2. I'm not convinced by Frank Lampard at all. I think the reason why Coventry are doing better than they were under Robbins is purely... the players obviously chucked their toys out the pram about Robbins. I don't understand it, why they didn't step up for it, like they did in that game against Luton where they came from 2-0 down, overtook them 3-2. But the players are good. But it looks like the players are sort of masking how bad a coach Frank Lampard is. He should be doing a lot better with this group of players. Like, I'd say that's a top 6 squad that he's got there.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think, although Norwich left it very late in the last game, and those 2 goals from Forson, I mean, for Norwich were incredible. And although they left it late, they deserved the win. Norwich, they really did. I agree with you. I think Frank Lampard as a manager is not it. And for me, it's a marketing exercise for Doug King, who's clearly got business model above football team. That's a worrying thing for me. Sacking Mark Robbins and bringing in the likes of Frank Lampard. It worries me that the lack of kind of depth of football knowledge you must have to do that, and what your priorities are, because it clearly isn't winning football matches, and they've not really been doing that. For me, I think it's only going to go further down. I think Coventry might well be in trouble as well, and down there towards the end of the season because of this. Again, I'm with you. They shouldn't be. Their squad's easily a top 6 squad, as we said with our predictions. But, I'm more than not convinced by Frank Lampard. I think he's useless at both Championship and Premier League level when he's been given any money to spend. So I've gone Coventry 1 and Bristol City 2. I think Bristol, on the other hand, have put some results together again. Tight 1-0 win in their last game against Derby, but they don't look overly convincing. But they're getting the results and they're keeping teams out. I think it could be a tight performance, but on the counter attack, I think Bristol City will win this 2-1.
I think Bristol City are due a wobble because they've got to revert back to 12th place. Because otherwise, I fear for humanity.
That is a worry. It is a worry, isn't it? Yeah. Don't worry. Well, and then Stoke have got Mark Robbins, so this could all go up in the air. Well, we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Right, but let's move on to Derby County versus Watford. Derby in a terrible run of form.
Terrible run of form. You'll never guess what I've predicted.
Derby win.
Yeah. I think both teams are in terrible run of form. Let's look at Watford's results. I mean, I think Watford are reverting to what most people expected this season. And I know, everybody's aware we're Luton fans and being neutral, etc. But I, regardless, even as a neutral, Watford were bottom half of the table, at least in most people's predictions. Some people, including Watford fans, had them in and around the relegation zone. This is what we expected. Cup game aside, of course, go into Craven Cottage and get beaten by Fulham, fine. But I think that other than a relatively late goal against Cardiff, I think that would have made it something like 4 or 5 losses in the league on the bounce. So they are struggling, and they're struggling at home and away. All right, they lost 2-1 to Sheffield United at home. That's no disgrace, but they also lost to Cardiff 2-1 at home as well. That's a tough result against a team down there. But you're right, Derby have been struggling too. At home, they're better than they are away. The only home game they've lost recently, I think, was to Leeds, which, again, is Leeds. So that's my reasoning. It isn't just based on me being a Luton fan, because, league table-wise, actually, for a Luton fan, I think a 2-1 win to Derby doesn't help us too much. But there we go, Derby 2, Watford 1.
So I'm backing Watford. It pains me. I'm backing Watford for this game. I've gone Watford 3, Derby 1. Not happy about it. And yes, Watford have... It's not even that... It's not that bad a run of form here. It's 3 losses and a draw. Yes, it was a very late goal to salvage it. In a way, I think... was it Bar or Bayo? I think it might have been Bayo that scored.
Yeah, it's Bayo that
10
scored,
goals for him this season.
He's done well, yeah.
And considering last season, he looked awful. And the season before that, they couldn't get rid of him. They couldn't get him out the building fast enough.
Yeah.
Like, he was like 3rd or 4th choice striker, like last time Luton Town were in the Championship with Watford. But it seems the fans are backing Cleverly. They've done this weird thing where they've all emailed into the club to say, please don't sack Cleverly. They all love him. They're big fans of Cleverly.
All the shareholders.
Everyone that's put a quid into the club. The best thing I heard about was Kieran Maguire, who said buying shares in Watford through this scheme is like prepaying to go to a buffet and then not being allowed to eat anything.
Yeah.
But they've all had their voices heard, and if Pozzo does sack Cleverly, there will be riots, because I think he's probably the best manager they've had in a long time.
100%.
Taking that squad, and he's taken youngsters like Kwedu Bar and just got them playing. Like, Bar is a ridiculous player, and they got people like Chak Fatadze, and he runs games. He's a scary player, and I wouldn't be surprised if Pozzo starts stripping the assets like during the window. Sell Chak Fatadze to God knows who. Maybe loan him out to Udinese and sell him from there. Who knows with Watford? It is quite an amusing one. Yeah.
I'd laugh more if we were in a slightly better position, of course.
I know. It's unfortunate, because I'd love to be on like an even keel with them. Like, I could take it if we were like mid-table and they were like maybe 2 positions above us. But the fact that Luton Town, and we're going to talk about Luton Town now. So
yeah,
Luton versus Preston North End. Luton Town have just appointed a new manager after mutually terminating with Rob Edwards, and we'll talk more about that in our match preview as well. So if you want to hear more about Luton Town and the new manager Matt Bloomfield, please check out the Luton Town match preview with Preston. It'll be in the description below. And is this where it all turns around, Ryman?
I really hope so. Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, it's obviously a very short amount of time for any kind of real tactical formation, massive changes, but you'd hope that the new manager bounce, in inverted commas, will come Luton's way. They're also at home, which helps, because, all right, they lost against Norwich, arguably undeservedly, but generally at home they've certainly been better than they are away. That's not difficult. They're still on a massive losing streak. It's probably the worst losing streak in the league now. So, that's tough. And Luton always find it quite tough against Preston as well. So, it is going to be tight. I'm going to go for an optimistic Luton Town 2, Preston North End 1. I can't see us keeping a clean sheet, because we never, ever do. You might also see the likes of some important players back, such as Alfie Doughty. That would be huge if he was. But we will see. As far as I know, Brad Potts is also out for Preston, which for Luton fans particularly, he's like our nemesis.
Love scoring worldies.
He really well, that particular one, but he scored against Luton a number of times. So that's good news as well. So I've gone for the new manager bounce 2-1 Luton.
I've gone even more optimistic here.
Go on.
I've gone 4-1 Luton.
Whoa. Well, that's a leap. That's a new manager leap. A leap of faith, that is, mate.
The squad is good. I'm saying the squad is good. Preston, they're all right. They're very solid. But I feel it's time now for the players to stop playing so badly. They can't play any worse than they have. And I think Matt Bloomfield's probably come in and away from what he said on the cameras, he's probably said to the players, stop being so shit. You were all playing in the Premier League last year.
I really hope that was his. Do you think that's his like Preston music style inspirational speech?
Yeah.
Just stop.
Why are you all so bad?
Why are you so shit?
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
They should definitely record that and stick that on social media. It'd do wonders. Yeah.
It's been embarrassing, and now that Edwards is gone, the onus is on the players. Although Gary Sweet did come out and say Rob was distracted for a number of months, maybe up to a year, and that opens up a whole other can of worms that we will discuss in the match preview. And I've discussed it many, many times over the channel because it annoyed me. It annoyed me that he wasn't given the boot if he was so obviously distracted, which we could all see. Regardless, I think Preston, they are defensively solid enough. Liam Lindsay's a hell of a player.
Still conceding 4 goals, according to you.
Well, even a broken clock is right twice a day. And I feel a lot of things are going to click. A lot of things. And you'll be laughing on the other side of your face when we win this one 4-1.
I'll be laughing on both sides of my face, mate, and you'll be there. I'll be there. Don't you worry about that. I won't care about these predictions if we're winning 4-1.
Right, on to Oxford United versus Blackburn Rovers. As of recording, Blackburn are currently beating Portsmouth 3-0 at home.
Yeah,
and
good result for them.
It is a good result. Do they travel as well, though? And Oxford are on a very good run of form right now. Last 5, won 3, drawn 2 since Mr. Rowett has come in.
Yeah, and as you said that, I thought, yeah, you're right, actually. There's a lot of reasons to predict that Oxford will do well in this game. So let me give my reasoning for Blackburn winning 2-1. Because I think that, Blackburn haven't been on the best run of form. They were quite unlucky to lose it. Well, they were unlucky to lose the derby. And I think that Oxford were probably quite lucky to draw against Plymouth as well. I think that the last, and they, of course, one of those draws with Blackburn was against Leeds. The other one was against Sunderland. So you've got to look at the opposition there. All right, their run doesn't look as good on paper, but they are playing the top sides in the division and they haven't lost many. The whole result, of course, stands out of all of those. Oxford, on the other hand, have certainly tied it up. They're much better under Rowett. Not surprising. Rowett's a pretty seasoned pro when it comes to the Championship. And as you say, Blackburn don't always travel quite as well, but they're a lot better than I think they were at the start of the season, where it was basically all coming at home. So yeah, I think that's mainly my reasoning, and I think, look, on paper they're a better side. There's that too. So I'm not completely convinced with the Oxford turnaround. I think they're going to be down there and struggling still, but obviously Rowett's doing a good job with them. Do I think Des Buckingham would have done as well? I think he probably would if he had players back that Rowett's got back or had back. That's my feeling on it. So I don't think it's going to be the miraculous mid-table finish. I still think they're going to struggle. Yeah, so anyway, Blackburn 2, Oxford.
So I've gone 1-1 here. I think Oxford will struggle just because everyone below them is going to pick up pace now. You got Stoke, who have appointed a new manager. Luton have just appointed a new manager. Portsmouth have a sort of little resurgence. Cardiff are on a resurgence. Hull are on a resurgence. Plymouth have a new manager as well. So I think, like, what is the saying? The rising tide floats all ships or sinks all ships. I'm
No,
not
it's
sure.
well, it does, yeah. I mean, it's the float one, but yeah, that's right.
I think the tide is rising now. So
Yeah.
essentially, the battle for relegation is going to engulf more and more people as we go down. As we go up the table. But I think Gary Rowett, he's a shrewd operator, and he'll know exactly what threats Blackburn pose. So 1-1. Yeah. To another relegation threatened team then, Portsmouth versus Middlesbrough.
Yeah, and they really are threatened again, aren't they? I know you said they had a resurgence, that 4-0 against Swansea, sort of standing alone amongst a load of crap results with other teams. Having said that, again, 1-0 against Sunderland. Yeah, it's Sunderland.
But they battered Coventry.
Yeah, they did. And it's a difficult one, because I feel like, the resurgence of the team has got to do with players coming back, particularly has made a big difference with Pompey. And Borough, on the other hand, have got an injury list as long as your arm. I mean, I don't know whether Tommy Conway's still injured, but that's a big one if he is, because he was really starting to pick up some form for Borough as well. I just think they're too strong for Pompey. I do, even Pompey at home. So I've gone 2-0 Borough for this one, purely on that. Neither team's been in amazing form recently, but yeah, I think with Pompey's recent form, I can only go with a Borough 2-0 win.
I think it's going to be a tasty one because Borough have been conceding quite a few goals. Well, not last 2 or 3 games, 0-0 against Burnley, 1-0 win against Hull, 1-1 with Cardiff, but then back-to-back 3-0s. I've gone 3-2 Middlesbrough here. Ooh. Pompey at home.
Yeah.
And I think Pompey can score. They can score goals. They've shown it, bagging 8 goals in 2 games. It's about which Portsmouth turns up. And I think at home, Fratton Park, they have something about them. But I still think Borough are going to have a little bit too much for them. But I think it'll be a right ding-dong, very open game, especially on Borough's side. 5-goal thriller.
That would be a good game. That really would. They need to come back after that FA Cup defeat as well, as worth saying, away to Wycombe, where they got played off the park by Wycombe. Absolutely.
Indeed. Yeah, I wonder what that Wycombe manager's up to these days.
Fingers crossed.
Did a good job there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Sheffield United versus Norwich. I've gone Sheffield United 2-0 because Sheffield United, that's what they do, isn't it?
Yeah. It is what they do. I've only deviated slightly and gone 2-1, but I imagine you'll say the same reasons.
Because Souttar's injured.
Yeah, so Souttar's injured. I think Ratsaki's injured as well. So those two on either end of the pitch are going to be a miss. Is Hamer still out? Do we know? Because that again is going to be they've got some big players missing, Sheffield United.
I think Hamer's in. Hamer was in their last game. Yeah,
right, sure. So, yeah,
they've got players missing though, like Arbalaster's missing.
Yeah.
They got Davies in; he's been doing all right.
Yeah,
They've got a new kid called Owner, One. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Right,
it's a great name though.
It is. Well, it's easy. Yeah, easy on the shirt. Ryan One. Right. Okay. Yeah. At home, you're struggling to bet against Sheffield United, which is, mostly correct.
Especially against Norwich, who don't travel well.
That's true, exactly. But, Norwich's last league game, okay, they got battered at home by Brighton. I mean, that happens. They played Coventry. I thought they were well-deserved winners, as I said. And the amount of confidence and good feeling about the place in those two last-minute goals, because they pretty much were. I mean, incredible. To overturn that scoreline is going to have an impact. So I can see this being a tight one, but yeah, I think Sheffield United at home possibly edge it 2-1.
Okay, managerless West Brom versus Stoke City with new manager Mark Robins. So it's an interesting one about West Brom and their managerial interests. Rob Edwards was linked and has apparently said no. Looks like they're going to get Tony Mowbray. They almost had Wiki, Raphael, Wiki, Jungle is massive.
As far as I was aware of what I read, that it was almost pretty much done. I mean, he was strong odds on, and then there was issues about him bringing his backroom staff or something, and I don't know how true those rumours were, but it just sounds a bit of an odd reason not to
West
hire.
Brom are on a mandated EFL business plan
true.
right now, and maybe they bringing the backroom staff was too much money. Who knows? But still, I'm sure their business plan is probably roughly the same. Revenue as Luton Town.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I mean, maybe it seems an odd one to get to that point in negotiations and then go, oh, actually, I haven't got enough money. I mean, of course he wants to bring his own people in. Every manager does, but hey, I don't know the real situation when they're reading what everyone else has read off the internet. I feel like this game is like, when you watch the election stuff, either in the UK. So this is the last time I'll ever talk about politics on the podcast. But you get like a swing. So the
swingometer.
Swingometer. I feel this is hitting the swingometer. So I've gone for a Stoke win based on this swing. The fact that West Brom's lack of manager, so we're obviously losing Carlos Corberán. And the impact that's bound to have. They haven't, hugely dropped off since then. I think Chris Point's done a good job in the meantime. But Mark Robins, we know, is a class manager, and has already started to turn things around at Stoke. I think that swing for me would make this a 1-0 win to Stoke, something I never thought I would be predicting a few weeks ago. Yeah, 1-0 Stoke.
It is interesting because 1-1, drawn 2. Last 3, so he has turned it around. But I think West Brom, they're hard to beat.
Yep.
Although I didn't really think about the fact that Josh Maja is out for a long time now. Didn't he? He's done something to his ankle, and there was speculation that he could be going to Chelsea, he could be going to Tottenham, and now he's out injured for weeks, probably until the end of the window. Well, definitely past the window. I got 1-0 West Brom, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a draw or a Stoke win. I'm not begrudging you anything here. It could go either way.
Yeah, really, you're right. It really could. I'm banking on Mark Robins. Mark Robins masterclass.
I hope not, because Stoke...
No, well, yeah, neither. I hope not too.
Bias aside. Right, Leeds versus Sheffield Wednesday. Is this one a derby?
I knew I was getting that question. I mean, yeah, sort of. I mean, they're both Yorkshire, but Sheffield's south and Leeds is west. I mean, it's not the derby, obviously.
You're wrong. They're both north.
No. Yeah, okay, fine. But yeah, I mean, we know who their derby is. I suppose whose Leeds is close. I always think Leeds Huddersfield. Obviously, Huddersfield now in League One. They're probably the closest one. But Leeds everyone, right? Mm-hmm. No one else likes Leeds, so Leeds anyone else. That's derby.
Millwall.
Well, either I think is fair. But no, I think if it'd be interesting to see whether the Leeds result against Hull has any bearing, and whether the bottle has indeed started, or whether it is a false start to the bottle. I'm not quite at the point where I can start predicting against it or predicting the bottle to arrive. So I've gone 2-0 Leeds. I've wimped out of it. There was a bit of me though that almost predicted a Sheffield Wednesday win. But yeah, I can't do it based on actual results and players. But Sheffield Wednesday, have really, really done well. And yeah, they're in and amongst it still. They're drawing a lot of games recently, but they're still in and amongst it. They're doing okay. They're getting half decent results. They need to get a few more wins. But yeah, Leeds at home, I've gone 2-0. But could be a bottle.
Could be. I've gone 2-1. And if you remember, I predicted Hull to win 1-0 against Leeds last prediction video. And all the Leeds fans were in the comments saying, have you seen our records? We're so good. No one scores against us.
That is an amazing Yorkshire accent as well.
Yeah.
I can't believe that.
I drink Yorkshire tea.
Please, sorry, Leeds fans. That is.
I apologise unreservedly. And then within 5 minutes, I think Hull were 1-0 up, and I was thinking, How about that? Yeah, they bottled that game against Hull. I think Leeds at home though, 2-1.
Yeah.
Danny Roll can't do anything about this. Leeds won't be rolling over Sheffield Wednesday though. But who's your lock of the week?
Yeah, it's a tough one this week because I've gone for very tight scores, but I've gone for an away win. I've gone for Bristol City to beat Coventry.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
I just think I just don't believe in Frank Lampard. I'm afraid, I just don't.
No, I don't either. I think he's if there was a Mount Rushmore of managerial frauds.
I never used the fraud word. You've done it for me.
Yeah, if there was a Mount Rushmore of managerial frauds, so Mount Fraudmore, Frank Lampard,
get Gerrard,
Russell
on there.
Martin,
get Gerrard on there.
I don't know if Gerrard would be up there. Yeah, Frank Lampard, Russell Martin,
Mickey Beale,
Rob
and
Edwards.
Oh no, right? No, I'm not having that. Not having that. But Mickey Beale can be up there. He's out there, isn't he? Out in Saudi with his mate now, Gerrard.
Yeah,
soaking up the millions. Yeah.
Probably it's absolutely shambolic.
I bet he's checking Instagram.
Let us know in the comments who would be the fourth head on Mount Fraudmore if you're watching to this point of the video. Yeah, the funny thing about Mickey Beale as well is he had that separate account, didn't he, to big himself up. Like push Beale propaganda.
It's so good.
It's so funny.
It's so obviously him as well.
I
think someone found it out within about 20 minutes because it was one of his companies or someone else. It was funny.
Good detective work from the Wizards of Drivel podcast, I believe.
Right,
it's
okay.
It's a Sunderland pod.
Yeah.
Or Stoke pod. I'm not. I can't remember.
It's brilliant. It's like
so
pure
good.
Narcissism. I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Anyway, my lock of the week: Hull City. Hull City 1, Millwall 0. But that's us done for this week. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, and you've enjoyed our company, please remember to subscribe for even more Championship content from the OK Football Show. And, well, I guess whoever you support, have a great week and enjoy the matches because there is a triple game week coming. Oh, God. Had enough of those already. And the year's only just started.
Oh, God. Come on, season. Get be done.